Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cozy and Connected podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Kaye, women's life coach, decluttering coach. And what did I call myself on the first go around?
Swears a lot McGee.
Swears a lot McGee. And I am here today with Susy Porter. So without further ado, on this second try, Susy, please introduce yourself and tell the people what they need to know about you.
I also swear a lot.
Yay! Home, family.
Well, I used to think that it was wrong because I went to a Christian college where you don't swear, drink, smoke, have sex, go to PG-13 movies, all that.
Very boring.
Well, you're supposed to get high on the Lord, and I was really down with that at the time. And I still do, but then I this is a funny way to introduce myself, but I was going through some deep shit in therapy. And I remember I was a courier for FedEx and I was sitting in my van and I was processing all this shit. And I swear to God, I heard this voice like the Holy Spirit saying, let it out. And can I tell you, Miss Charlotte, you want to hear some swearing? Words came out of me that I don't even say. And after that, I felt this huge release and I probably cried. And I swear to God, I could see God going, good. And ever since that experience, I was like, and then I just thought about it logically. Shh, it's just a sound.
Yeah.
I mean, if we really truly believe that God is the infinite loving source of all that is, you think a swear word's gonna piss it? I mean, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
that would be very stressful for him, them, her, whatever, you know.
It all, yeah, come on. So I'm Susy Porter. I swear a lot, although I try to be respectful. I don't go into the post office around a bunch of senior citizens and go, I'm respectful. I swear when appropriate, necessary, and adds to the conversation. Like I would use any juicy adjective.
Yes.
I'm a writer, an actor, and I am a life coach, and I'm in a new program called Miracle Minded Coaching with Marianne Williamson. So I'm combining what I've done with clients is called Rewrite Your Life, because I love memoir. I've been a writer since I was 7. I wrote my life story at 7, wasn't very long. It was pretty much about all the boys who liked me and I liked them.
Oh yeah, that's all I wrote about back then too. And when I was mad at my parents.
Right. Well, mine was pretty, it had a lot of angst in it already for 7. I think I said something like, my parents got a divorce but life is life. What can you do? Or something very like Dostoevsky meets, Anne of Green Gables.
Oh my God. Like so Russian dramatic. Literature. Yes. That's how I was too. Don't worry. Oh my God. One thing I remember, because I used to, we both have done theater, you more extensively than I think, but I was the star of the show. Like in my head, I was the center of the universe, right? And so I remember rereading one of my diaries once, and this girl who was in my class, who was a much better singer than me, got a solo over me. And I remember writing, I'm so mad. She doesn't even deserve to have the first letter of her name capitalized.
What? Oh, fierce. How old were you?
That was maybe I think it was elementary school, maybe like 9 or 10.
Charlotte, I blame our educational system. I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I have seen how every fucking month, student of the month, we are born and bred to compete, which is awful, which is the opposite of what our creator and our purpose on this earth. I mean, because in your soul, when you were like 2 or 3 years old, you wouldn't have been jealous of her singing, and you probably thought you were the best singer in the universe when you were 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I really did.
School that wrecks us.
Yes.
It's that fear of be the best. I live in Los Angeles where kids, I'm not kidding, from preschool they're on the fast track to Harvard, and it's so much pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah. We can send that girl love now who got the solo.
Oh my God. And she so deserved it. And I got solos here and there too, but like, it's so funny when you're in your mind, you are this thing, and then your reality is maybe not met with you being treated that way. And I was just a very dramatic person. So that's how that came out.
I have so much compassion for that little girl because we all want, I want all the love and attention, and the way the world works, it's like there's never enough to go around. So you just wanted more, a piece of it. And you felt like what she was getting was taking away from you.
Mm-hmm. So total scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah. Well, the planet operates on that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, wait, you were in the middle of your background. What did we miss?
So I love memoir, and I love theater. I love. So I'm combining right now how I work with people. I love to hear someone's memoir. I have a whole program called Rewrite Your Life, where it's a 6-week course, and we look over your whole memoir, your biography, as much as we can in that period, and kind of find out where you got those painful hidden beliefs, where you, like for me, I was molested when I was 7, so I'm a victim for the rest of my life. Because when you're a child and you have trauma happen to you, you don't have the cognitive bandwidth, or you don't have the awareness to know what the fuck happened to you. And a lot of people are molested or when they're babies and toddlers. I mean, I remember I did a writing class with Martha Beck, and you had to write, everything in my life was perfect because, and you're supposed to pick the most terrible thing that happened to you and say, it happened to me at the perfect time because. That was really difficult for me to write. Oh, it was perfect that I got, but then I talked to my friend, and she kind of helped me to see that I was at the age where I could remember it. So there was actually a lot of good things about it happening when I was 7. But the point is, no matter what happens to you, because terrible shit happens to us, especially women. So my passion is holding compassion and holding the space for all of that woundedness, pain, anger, fear, whatever, with zero judgment, and also holding the place, like the Course in Miracles says, the Christ in you cannot be crucified, which is pretty lofty, high thing to think. Because you're like, well, I'm not the Christ, I'm just a little girl. So I think I'm an expert at helping people work through that, because I've worked through that in myself. I was a victim for such a long time, but I didn't even know it. That's why I'm a huge fan of life coaching. Even therapy is fine, and I'm grateful that it's there, but I feel like life coaching for me personally was much more effective because it helped me get to those unconscious limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And I'll be interested to see kind of over time, because I think there are therapists who might do more coachy things, and I think there are coaches who might do, like I think there's overlap, but I think it's just going to be interesting because I think, I've done a little bit of therapy, but it wasn't really like dig into your, mommy and daddy issue kind of therapy. But I think that's the thought of what it's really digging into your problems. And then like, that's it. I remember a friend of mine who I also met through Jess Lively's class Flow, which is how we met. She needed someone to do past life regression with, because she was getting certified. So I did that with her, and it started with just like going through all the background of my life and all the like shitty things, right, that have happened. Mm-hmm. And then I remember saying to her, I'm like, imagine that this was just where we ended. Like, it was just me talking about the shitty things and then, not doing the past life regression.
Bye-bye. Have fun. Good luck.
Yeah. But that's what I feel like sometimes, and everyone has different experience, but I feel like that in my mind, that's what therapy is. And I'm like, how is this helpful? But anyways, those are
that was my experience, honey. I went to the best. I went to the Susan for, I loved my therapist. Every one of them, except for one, were great. I've had a lot. But I came to a point with every single one of them where I would just look at them and say, okay, I've got like this daddy-sized wound in my heart. What do I do with it? And I remember each one of their faces, the blank stare of, I don't know.
Yeah. So
with life coaching, I remember my life coach, Kim Guillory, to plug her, More Than Mindset.
Yeah.
She said to me after about, I don't know, maybe 8 months of us doing really deep emotional processing, she said, it was just something that happened to you. That blew my mind. Now, if she would have said, that's just something that happened to you on day one, I would have said, fuck you, give me my money back. I hate you. But because I had been, that's the key thing, I think, between Course in Miracles, the Bible, all these lofty things that are true, and our messy, ugly human experience, is a great life coach or therapist knows when to offer what, and to never shame or blame the person. But the biggest, I mean, the biggest blessing of having lived through any kind of abuse is that while you can hold compassion for the person who's been through it, you won't buy into their excuse that they're never, because I'm happy. You can be happy. And I have people that I love dearly who believe they will always be depressed. They will always be wounded. They are messed up. And I used to believe that, you know, but I don't anymore. So it's like you hold the compassion, but you don't. Like, my favorite example of this is when, do you know the Bible at all? When Jesus had these good friends, Mary. Okay, well, Jesus had these good friends he hung out with, he chilled with, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Mary was, I get them mixed up. One of them was real type A, nervous, and the other one was chill. And anyway, Lazarus died, and Jesus was out of town. And when he came back, Mary and Martha they were mad. Like, why didn't you come back sooner? Like, they come back, our brothers died. So this is the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. So he cried, but then he didn't just sit there and cry and go, he's dead. He wept. And then he said, no, he's not dead. He's just asleep. Lazarus, come forth, get up. And he got up. And I love the metaphor further. He took off his death clothes, which to me is like taking off our limiting beliefs that keep us in the tomb. So to me, that is the highest level. He had compassion, but he didn't believe the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just talking about this. So one of the first things I did sort of on my personal development journey is I got into meditation and mindfulness, and I took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. And this was about 6 years ago now. And I'm actually taking that same course with the same teacher again, because they were offering it for like $100 for 8 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. And we were talking about spiritual bypassing and sort of the argument that mindfulness can be a way to spiritually bypass. And, you know, what I shared was that for me, what mindfulness allows me to do is feel my feelings, but not attach the story to it. Right. Like, I think that's been the bridge for me. At first it was, I think a lot of us on our spiritual journey, we do spiritually bypass. I think that's kind of part of it. And then you learn the power of feeling your feelings, and having that background and grounding in mindfulness has allowed me. And that's how I encourage other people to do, is like, emotions are coming up to be processed. Like, you don't have to attach a story to it. Like, maybe you need to unpack a little bit, but you can just feel the feelings and like let them flow through. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's like an easy thing, but you know, it can be done. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, if there is a story there, look at the story, uncover, unpack, unveil, and then take the story apart and rewrite it.
Yes.
and rewrite it. That's the whole thing. Like Marissa Peer, that great RTT, she's like, erase, eradicate, and create the other E word, eliminate. Erase, eradicate, eliminate. I love the way she speaks. Erase, eradicate, and eliminate all of that, and then replace it with the new. And then that's the process of rebuilding, right? Like, I remember Marianne said at a lecture like, 30 years ago, we come into the spiritual world and we expect God to like decorate our house and put little curtains and candles, and instead a wrecking ball comes and demolishes our house, and we're like, what the fuck? I'm praying, I'm meditating, and now this is what happens? Are you fucking? I have a whole scene in my show where I just lose my shit with God. And I say, fuck you, God, which I'm sure would be offensive to a lot of people, but in the context of the show, he deserved it. Like that Tori Amos song, you know, God, sometimes you just don't come through. So, and that's part of the story. Yeah. If all your life you were told God loves you, God will take care of you, and then your life is shit with cancer, disease, depression, you blame it on God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a story to unpack when you can just, really clear out all your beliefs. Yeah, you're not attached to what the story used to mean. You're attached to the truth of who you really are.
Yes.
And that all this pain unfolded for me, which is another cliche. Life happens for you, not to you. But you're like, are you kidding me? So it's, yeah, I was a cliche junkie. I was a total spiritual bypasser. I grew up in church, praying, speaking in tongues, going to Bible college, you name it, I've done it. Past life, I've been sweat lodged, smoked deep tissue. I've done it all to not deal. But life coaching was like, hey, why don't we go inside and see what's in your brain? And I'm like, oh, that's where it was the whole time. Who knew? I thought it was in Swami Vivekananda knew the answer. No, nobody knows the answer except you.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Okay, well, we were sort of joking before we went live about what kinds of questions Susy can ask me, but I told her basically anything. So, and she came up with some zingers right away. So,
okay, let me ask you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a little of your story. I watched when you told your story I remember more about how you changed in your career. But I'm always interested. What was the sort of the impetus or the catalyst or the turning point where you turned towards spirituality or spiritual healing?
Yeah. I was kind of dragged by my hair. So I grew up with no religious, no spiritual, no nothing. I remember when I was very soon after college, I worked for an organization and they put on a conference, and one of the workshops was on the energy of money. And I remember taking that workshop and hating it and being like, I am not, how people talk about, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I'm not fucking spiritual. I'm like nothing. I think this is bullshit. I feel like
I love it.
Was so far the other direction. And then when I started to open up a bit, I mean, it really was just lively. Like, I took a job that had a long commute, a coworker, because Jess and I went to the same college. She got her MBA from the University of Michigan. No, she was before me. But someone I worked with had been one of her advisors or something. And she was like, she has this podcast about intentionality. And I had just put it on my phone. At that point, I didn't even listen to podcasts. But when I started commuting, I was like, okay, I'll just turn this on. And I mean, this was early Jess. So this was pre-manifestation, pre-law of attraction. Like, she kind of thought it was bullshit too, but she was intrigued. And so as I was listening to her, I don't even think she got to manifestation yet by the time I had like my kind of big something needs to change, because I was working for a nonprofit. I was commuting about 2 hours a day. I was working 8 to 10 plus hours a day. I was stressed out. And a lot of the people she had on the show talked about meditation. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But as I was getting really burnt out and overwhelmed, I was like, I guess I'll try. I'm like, I can't make more hours in the day. I can't make there be more of me to get more things done. Like, I guess I'll try this. So I had listened to the episode where she interviewed Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning. And I bought the book, read it, and then I started doing The Miracle Morning. I started doing the 6-minute version, which was like, I've talked about this before, but it's 1 minute of meditation, 1 minute of affirmations, 1 minute of visualization, 1 minute of exercise, 1 minute of reading, and 1 minute of writing.
Okay, so let me just pause here for a second.
Yeah.
So you went from saying, I'm not religious, I'm not spiritual, this is all bullshit, to buying this book and doing it. Like, really.
Yes. And the reason,
the pain of being stressed out from your work that drew you, I need help. This isn't good. So the pain of that motivated you to want to meditate.
And for me, it still wasn't a spiritual thing at all. It was the science part of it. It was like the science of mindfulness and meditation. And like, when I think back, what stands out is the the meditation piece, but I know I did all those other things too. So they were all kind of in there. So I started doing that more and more, and that sort of gave me the space to say, like, and then things were like falling apart at this place I was working at. People were leaving, the entire leadership team, we all ended up leaving at the same time. I left without another job lined up, and somehow it all worked out. And so as I did that, and I kept listening to Jess, and I kept listening, I remember like listening to Law of Attraction, the book, because she had recommended it, like in my AirPods, like kind of looking over my shoulder, like, are people thinking that I am out of my mind? Even though they can't hear, like I was very, very that. And then I slowly started to kind of come around to, and this is still my thing, I didn't have like a, the universe spoke to me sort of thing. I did the intuition work, but I still now am like, well, I can choose what I believe. And if it feels better to believe that there is something larger, or that there is something supporting us, that feels better to me than thinking we're entirely on our own. So it's sort of like my faith is a choice and a practice, right? Like it's not just like, oh, now I totally believe and trust and surrender, with different things, ego comes up, all of that. But that was sort of the start of my journey. Then I went deeper into the meditation piece and more of the intuition and all of that. And then took flow, learned about manifestation, and then that just kind of went like full force.
That fascinates me. So you didn't necessarily believe in God or a divine intelligence or anything?
No, we were very like atheist, agnostic family growing up.
That fascinates me because I was the opposite. I mean, my parents weren't religious at all, but my mother prayed the Our Father with me at night and told me with God all things were possible. And I hopped on the church bus of my own accord. So I believed in God, and I'm trying to imagine not believing in God and then just going, well, maybe, like, just as an intellectual choice, maybe there is something out there.
I will say, when I was really young, I think I was the most open. Well, maybe, I don't know. In my perspective, I think because I remember, things like if I had a really bad stomach ache, I'd be like, God, please help me. Like this hurts. Yeah. Like I remember having thoughts like that, but then it was like the science. And then I went to, a very liberal and science-based university, like a Peer 1 research institution, right? And it was like, if you can't prove it, it doesn't exist, basically. And so I followed along with that for quite a long time. And I think I also saw, the perspective of religion, where it was like, I was very involved in like the LGBTQ community, and I saw the ways that religion can really divide people, and I just was like, this is just like bullshit. Like, you have no proof that this exists, and yet you're going to use it as a reason to like harm people. So there was a lot of that. And yet one of my best friends since middle school is very Catholic, but she's very like, she doesn't just like blindly follow doctrine, right? Like she has her own thoughts about, and she's like, God is universal love. So anything going against that is not God. Like that, you can't use that as a reason, right? And so, as I came into, it's honestly one of the most like beautiful things that's come out of me opening up to this side of things, is being able to have deeper conversations with her and connecting with her, because it was something before where we just didn't, like, the idea of Christianity just like triggered me. I was just like, I don't even want to hear it, and it's allowed me to really just like take every individual at their their own values, and not necessarily be like, oh, they label themselves as this, so therefore they don't believe in science and I don't want to talk to them, like it was that kind of level. So I was disconnecting from
Well, I think that's another I don't know if it's more of a pet peeve or a passion, but the whole Christianity, like I used to call myself a Christian, but I just can't anymore. And I'm okay with that because Jesus was not a Christian for sure. Never went to church, didn't speak with a Southern accent, carry a big black Bible, and he didn't hate gays. So I'm okay with not calling myself a Christian, but it is kind of like Martha Beck, one of my heroes. She writes in her book Leaving the Saints how she was Mormon. So when she left the Mormon church and then she left her marriage and then she became a lesbian, she was like, talk about leaving your tribe.
Yeah.
Plus outing that her father fucked her when she was 5 and he was a bigwig in the Mormon church.
Oh,
Fucked her really bad. Like she had to have 3 or 4, sorry Martha if you're listening to be so crude, but she would never say it like that. But she's a hero of mine because she lived through that. And the way she writes about it in her book, Leaving the Saints, with no bitterness, no animosity, no hatred, but only love towards her father. You have to read the whole book to get the context of it. But to me, religion plus patriarchy plus daddy fucking you plus you're not allowed to say anything. Hello, Susie Porter triggers like crazy.
Yeah.
And so talking about mindfulness and beliefs, for me, a big, huge part of it is I can't really help others if I'm constantly triggered, no matter what it is, Trump or whatever. And so, sorry for saying that.
You're good.
Course in Miracles says that his innocence is guaranteed by God. So who am I to lie with God? Argue with God. Everybody is innocent. We're all brothers and sisters, and I have to love everyone. Doesn't mean I have to sit down and have lunch with them, but I can't be a miracle-minded coach, or I can't be the kind of human being I want to be and have hate and anger, or even that victimness in my heart. So that's been a huge part of my journey. So while I have compassion for fundamental born again Christians and stuff, the other day I saw a meme and it was the Bible in the shape of a gun. And it said, this is the most powerful weapon. And I was so, pardon the pun, triggered.
Oh.
I wanted to go, and I know this guy, I don't know him, but I know him peripherally because he's constantly commenting on my friend who's a bit of a celebrity. He's like always on her page. And I wanted to get into it with him, but I was like, no, you don't, Susie. Come on, you've learned a little bit. Don't go there.
Yeah.
But I did write about it on my own page, and I thought, the Bible, which to me, any sacred text is a love letter from the divine to humans. And anything that is not love is bullshit. Yeah. And to take the Bible and put it in the shape of a motherfucking gun, it's like, I'm still upset about it. I suppose I need to meditate more. But I'm angry because I tell you, when I moved to Los Angeles and I started getting like tarot cards and going to the Bodhi tree and the psychic eye, which are these woo-woos, I was afraid because I had been very well indoctrinated at Fort Wayne Bible College that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. Everything else is a cult. Only the one way, Jesus Christian. And so I remember, I will never forget, I prayed and I imagined God as, you're too young to remember, sorry, this old Jewish comedian named Shecky Green. He was a Borscht Belt comedian, these old Jews in the Catskills, right? He's the picture like an old Jewish lawyer with that big black hair, just a very affable grin, one of those men who are just kind and wise. And he was, like a lawyer sitting in his chair, one of those big easy chairs, leaning back. So this was God in my vision. And he was just smiling and he was very relaxed. And he said to me, Susie, where can you go that is outside of my love?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay. And then I also thought, common sense. I have been so fully indoctrinated for 2 years at one of the best Bible colleges on earth. Yeah. I'm not going to believe bullshit.
Yeah. You know? And what a culty thing to teach. That this is the only,
it's fear,
and everything else. Yeah, it's total fear.
Not only is it the only way, but our way of saying, like, it's trippy, the whole religion. But what's interesting, you and I were talking, I think before we went live, about how life coaching and therapy are going to overlap. Religion and science are overlapping with Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, all those teachers, and Abraham Hicks, and everybody's kind of. My jam, what I really gets me going, this is where I nerd out, is where all those things align.
Yeah.
talking about like my brother, whatever he's called, Richard Rohr. He's like, I don't know what he is. He's that cool kind of Catholic, like Jesuit or something, like the liberal cool kind. Like he wrote a book called The Universal Christ. And that's what I love is like where they all align. Because I used to feel so threatened. Ram Dass, Timothy Leary, psychedelics, whatever. No, they all align. We are all walking each other home, all of us. It's kind of like the good news and the bad news. We're all going together, like it or not, you know?
Yeah. I just want to quickly mention too, for people listening who have experienced trauma, I just also want to affirm that wherever you are in your journey is okay. Like when you hear about Martha Beck and like that sort of next level of, forgiveness. I mean, that's out of this world.
Yeah,
and I just want to say like, I just want to give permission to those listening. If you're not there and if that is never where you want to be, that is also totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, if you read her book, you'll see that, she's in her 60s now. So she's had many decades to work. And I think she spent quite a lot of time meditating for like 3 hours a day. Yeah. It's, Eckhart Tolle writes in The New Earth that some of the wisest and most enlightened people on earth, and I know this is going to sound like I'm saying I'm one of them, but that's not the point of what I'm saying. Not saying I'm not, but as some of the most enlightened beings on earth at one time had the deepest, heaviest pain bodies, including himself, including Jesus. Dying on the cross probably wasn't that great, but the resurrection is the whole point. So, like Byron Katie was depressed and overweight for 20 years. A cockroach walks over her toe and she's fine. These stories amaze me, Charlotte. If I have to come back and incarnate in the next life, I want one of those. You're just like cockroach enlightened.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so funny. I'm still like, my goal is not enlightenment. It's so funny. I went to a 3-day silent meditation retreat because I thought I might want to do a 10-day. This was very in the Buddhist tradition.
You didn't talk for 3 days?
Oh yeah. I love silent meditation retreats. Is that shocking? Because I do also love talking.
I love talking and I love the stillness. And I listen to Ram Dass quite a lot. And he talks about how him and his group from like the 60s, they went from doing acid and LSD, like they made LSD, like he quit doing that and meditated. And so he would meditate from like, I don't know, 3 a.m. to not, it's just like for 12 hours a day, day after day for like, I don't know, maybe years. And I think, I suppose I could if I had to, but the thought of it makes me feel like claustrophobic mentally.
Yeah. I like a good 1 day mindfulness. So I did the 3-day and it was very in the Buddhist tradition. And I got to the end of it and it was like, it felt like the goal was like enlightenment. And I'm like, that's just not my goal.
What is that? I mean, break that down. What does that even mean?
So it was very like just like opening your awareness. Now that I do the manifestation thing and I like to focus on the good and I like to feel the human like positive feelings, Buddhism or Buddhist types of meditation can feel very neutral. Very just like open yourself to whatever, kind of the Buddha sitting under the tree, right? Like, I just want to like have the most fun, feel the best, like, feel the shitty things too. Like those are going to happen and that's great. But like, I'm not looking to be zenned out, I suppose would be the word that I would use. So it was just interesting. But oh my gosh, we've talked so much. Okay. So before we wrap up, do you have any last questions for me or things you want to say? We'll talk about how people can connect with you, but anything before we get to that part?
Well, I notice on your page, a lot of people talk to you about confidence, but from that little story that you told me of yourself when you were a little girl, it seems like that's just your personality. Maybe you've always been a bit confident.
I think it's definitely grown over the years. I think the mindset pieces have definitely gone with it. And, it's funny. I can say this to you and everyone listening, apparently, that, a lot of what I do is I can teach people to act like fucking mediocre white men. You've like heard that, just like go through your day like a mediocre white, just like give less of a shit. Like, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be fine. And I'm not like putting them on a pedestal, but there is something to it, right? Like they kind of have less of the conditioning, right? And every individual has their own journey and their own story. And this is obviously a huge generalization, but they don't have a ton of conditioning going against them. So if it's like, if we can just set some of that aside and just go with it and chill out and do what we want to do and be honest about what we want to do and what we don't want to do, like, that is where confidence can come from, right? And seeing that nothing truly terrible happens when you do that.
Right. And I would add, love what you said. Would you say average, just normal white man?
Mediocre white man.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, mediocre white man. And I'm 100% understand what you're saying. And for me, I remember when I was in my 30s, and now again, I'm revisiting it with my teenage daughter and for myself, books like Women Who Run with the Wolves and all the books about goddesses. Athena was pretty powerful, and Pele and Shiva. And so as awesome as mediocre white man is powerful in the United States in this day and age, for women, I think the trap with that is we become men. This is what happened from Women's Lib, is that we became men. Mm-hmm. And then we lost our vulnerability and our femininity. And then for me, I'm a ex-member of the Man Hating Club. I'm married to one. I gave
me too.
Yeah, I don't hate them anymore. As a matter of fact, I see how there was a woman named Pat Allen who used to give lectures about men and women in relationships. And she said that men are more sensitive than women. And just interesting side note is that men want their thoughts to be cherished. Women want their feelings to be cherished. So the more that we can understand that, I just wanted to affirm that our power as women, like connecting to that goddess energy, like the Virgin Mary, right? I don't want to say the Virgin Mary. She's always painted as this. Can we say what a powerful woman? I mean, Anna, even Pollyanna, who is much besmirched. Do you know the story of Pollyanna? Mm-mm. She changed. Read it or watch it. Watch the kid movie. She literally changed every single human being who came in contact with her by her consciousness. And people are like, "Oh, you're such a Pollyanna." Are you kidding me? I should be so powerful. All of a sudden I'm Jewish. I should be so powerful.
Yeah.
But Pollyanna, like, so I think that this white man power or whatever, it's very zeitgeist today. But goddess power, Mary power, Athena power, Aphrodite, sexual power, which you talk about a lot, that's power. I mean, if you read Gloria Steinem's book, Revolution from Within, she begins with talking about God used to be a woman. And these temples were to Diana. And then they said, no, they're to Mary. I love both Diana and Mary. They're not in competition with me at all. But if you think of the ancient paintings of God with the bosoms and the womb, I mean, to me, that again, I like for them to align because I want a mommy and a daddy. I want the masculine and the feminine. And this is where we're going with LGBT and trans and everything. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
This trans is probably maybe some kind of expression or outpicturing of the merging of them. I mean, my kids are teenagers. They're like non-binary. They're gender fluid.
Yes.
Like gender identity is like so last millennium.
Yes. I know. So, I'm so excited.
So I understand, and I'm 100% get what you mean about that mediocre white guy.
Yeah.
But God.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like only embody that, but I think like the chill that comes with that. Yeah. Right. Like I don't know, and I don't think mediocre white men are like powerful in my definition of powerful, right? It's like the power and the rest. So it's kind of like taking the rest, the cue from the rest from them of like, I'm going to get done in a work day what gets done in a work day. And then like stepping away, like that.
Dan Draper. Did you ever watch Mad Men? That guy's a powerful white man.
A little bit. That was I was just kind of like, at that time I couldn't get past the like people love it because they love like the glorification of a super sexist society. Like
but when you watch it from the other lens, you see how strong all of those women are.
Oh yeah. And I did.
And if you watch it all the way to the end, the women, I don't want to spoiler alert, but it turns out okay for the women in the end. Yeah. And the men, not so much.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
patriarchy is not good for men. We should just say that. We love men. Patriarchy hurts men. Not good for boys.
Patriarchy fucks everyone.
Yeah.
Fucks everyone.
It would like to, wouldn't it?
Yes. Okay. Awesome. We could obviously talk forever, and you're very welcome to come back on again because this was super fun. Please tell the people how they can work with you, connect with you, all the things.
Well, if you want to check out those videos I made or just to see what I'm all about, you can go to my Susy Porter Coaching Facebook page. I do have a website, but it's shut down right now, susyporter.com. I'm a life coach and I am a mindset and miracles. Hey, that sounds kind of nice together. Yeah. And I can hold the space for trauma with compassion and with power.
Yeah.
In a place of that I see your infinite potential and I see your pain and I can hold space for both of them.
Awesome.
With huge compassion and zero judgment.
Yes, I love it. Awesome. And for those listening live, you can catch the free manifestation workshop in the Cozy and Connected Facebook group on May 5th at 5 p.m.
Cinco de Mayo. I got it on my calendar.
5. Oh, yay. I'm so excited to be there. Eastern Standard Time. So it'll be a little bit later for Susie because she's on the West Coast, I believe.
Earlier for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
3 hours earlier. You're in the same time zone as my mother.
Perfect.
I grew up in Ohio, so I'm used to.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah.
3 hours later.
Close. Awesome. Well,
3 hours later and colder.
Yes, much colder. Although it's like it was like 40 yesterday and it's 80 today. So
I remember that growing up in Cleveland. You never know.
You never know. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you, Charlotte. This was super fun.